Baker Mayfield and David Njoku are primed for huge games this weekend to kick off the 2025 season. We reveal our week 1 quarterback and tight end rankings on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today is Crossover Thursday, and Crossover Thursday is presented by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. We are finishing up our positional week 1 rankings on today's show. We've already done running backs on Tuesday, wide receivers on Wednesday's show, and we're going to do both of our quarterbacks and tight end week 1 rankings on today's show before getting to our sleepers and some fun DFS plays on tomorrow's episode. Let's get right into this with our quarterbacks, starting right at the top. I mean, we had the same 6 quarterbacks ranked inside our top 6 for the week. A little bit of a different order. So my top 6 go Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels, and Joe Burrow. Your top 6 also starts with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, but then has Jaden Daniels, number 3, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Baker Mayfield. So we both have Baker Mayfield in this top group with those elite guys. I have Baker a little bit higher than you at number 4, but you still have him number 6. We're both expecting a really big game out of him against this Falcons defense.
Yeah, long term, we're going to see how it plays out, right? He lost his offense coordinator. He needs Chris Godwin back. I know you got a Bucca, but the Jalen McMillan injury hurts their depth out of the gate, as well as Cade Otton is banged up as well. So let's hope those weapons don't affect Mayfield too much in this one. I think he can get the job done with Evans and Bucca. Plenty in this one. The Falcons secondary, a lot of issues. They have A.J. Terrell, but not much else here to look at in their pass defenses. That's been a consistent weakness for the Falcons, and if the Bucs are doing that, then they should be able to pass the ball. My only concern is volume, right? The Falcons need to keep it somewhat competitive, so it's not the Bucky Irving show. But again, the nature of the Bucs offense is to pass. They're going to get Evans and Bucca going here, so I think he's in for a pretty high floor and a very high ceiling potential game.
Yeah, what's nice is I do expect the Falcons offense to be able to put up points. Whether it might just be Bijan Robinson like the whole show, right? Or Michael Penix might look better than we expect. But last year, I mean, the Falcons offense was able to move the ball against the Buccaneers all over the place. And that was with Kirk Cousins, but it's not like Kirk Cousins was killing it against other teams. But both of the games last year, Baker Mayfield had over 22 fantasy points and put up 3 touchdowns in both of those games. I just, even though he's going to be missing Jalen McMillan and Chris Godwin, I still think he has plenty enough weapons to get it done this week. So very excited about him. Now this is where things take a turn for our rankings, because at number 7, you have Patrick Mahomes, and I don't have him anywhere even close to my top 10. I have him at quarterback 17. The Chargers are a tough defense, and I still expect them to be tough this year. Allowed just 15.8 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks last season. We know there's going to be no Rashee Rice. And last year, I did not put Patrick Mahomes at 17 because of this, but when I went to go look it up after the fact, Patrick Mahomes was exactly the quarterback 17 in each of the weeks he played the Chargers last season. He scored 14.1 points in week 14 and 13 points in week 4. But like, it's not even just Mahomes having bad games in those games. That's just like his typical fantasy days as of late. So that's why I have him lower. Why are you so high on him at number 7 in such a tough matchup?
Well, I think there's going to have to be volume in this game, because I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to run the ball that well in this one. So I think that's going to be their only avenue to winning this. And again, it really comes down for most of these weeks, for most of these guys, comes down to can they get the multiple touchdowns. And I think there's a very clear path to doing that in this particular game. And again, the Chargers, I also figure, are going to put up a little bit better fight. I mean, their offense is a little bit revamped here with Amari and Hampton in the backfield. I'm McConkey going into year 2. So this is a hard game to read, because in some parts of it, we might think it's going to be more defensive minded. It's a tough place to play in week 1 on a Friday in Brazil. So again, that's a little bit odd in terms of trying to wrap your head around just being out of your habit, right? If you're a player. But I think there could be some points to be had here. I think the Chargers, again, will be more effective in moving the ball with Hampton and Keenan Allen. Hampton, by the way, is named the starter for whatever that's worth. I think we already knew that he was going to be over Najee Harris. So this offense of the Chargers might push the Chiefs into putting up a little bit more in this game. And I think Chiefs defense, again, it's been good, but I don't think it's going to shut down the Chargers in this particular game.
Yeah, I'm okay. I actually like Justin Herbert more than Mahomes, but I do just worry about Mahomes' fantasy production in this game and throughout the entire season. Now, my quarterback 7 is Brock Purdy, and we kind of agree to give him a quarterback 9, so right there, close to it. He was a top 8 fantasy quarterback in the last 10 games played. He's always been really good in Seattle, but even last year in both games against Seattle, he put 24 points in this game at Seattle last year, 18.3 points in the Week 11 game at home. But Christian McCaffrey being back is actually good for Purdy. When they get around the end zone, he has a also just takes a lot of pressure off of Purdy and Kittle and all those options when Christian McCaffrey is a guy that the defense has to worry about. So I think that only helps him being back. So that's why he's my quarterback 7.
Yeah, I mean, Purdy has a great matchup, and the Seahawks still figuring out some things on the back end. Again, there's enough weapons there. And Juwan Jennings, he's not totally ruled out for this game yet. They're hoping. I mean, he's in practice. May get a questionable tag in the end, but you have Ricky Pearsall, you have George Kittle, you have Christian McCaffrey. That's all you maybe need in the passing game to really go in there and beat Seattle. So, again, I think you'll see a balanced offense, but I think the 49ers should have no problems passing the ball and the downfield spreading it around here with Purdy this week. So, again, don't be too worried about Purdy and his weapons. If you drafted him pretty high, you're trusting in those weapons and him getting around that.
Now, our quarterback 8s are also different with both of us having the guys that we have there a little bit lower. So I have Caleb Williams at number 8. You don't have him until quarterback 15 this week. Well, you have Bo Nix at number 8, and I am at quarterback 13 against the Titans. I mean, Caleb Williams, we already had ranked high, right, for the season. So I have him pretty much where I have him ranked for the season. But I like this matchup against the Vikings. I know last year the Vikings were good technically against fantasy quarterbacks. Like, they didn't allow a ton of fantasy points. But that really was just due to how many interceptions they got. And we know turnovers can be so fickle, right? They go up and down every year. It's very hard to actually replicate that type of production that Vikings defense had in turnovers last season. So they allowed the 5th most passing yards last year, middle of the pack in passing touchdowns allowed. So I don't think they're this scary defense. Caleb even scored 27 fantasy points against the Vikings in one of his matchups against them last year, but then just 10 points in the other. But that kind of shows you what Caleb Williams' rookie season was, right? It was up and down. But I just don't trust this Bears run game at all right now either until I see them actually produce. So I think there's going to be a lot of passing in this game, and Caleb Williams is going to get it done.
Yeah, I just am a little bit wary because the defenses usually play better at home in prime time. The Vikings are at home in prime time. They'll be pumped up coming out and flying around. I mean, really, there's your 2 outcomes there. I think it's boom or bust here for Caleb Williams. So I'm leaning toward more on the bust side, and Michelle's on the boom side. But yeah, the running game is a good point here because you have a couple things that are concerning. Yeah, Roschon Johnson and Kyle Monaghan are going to be on the injury list as we go into this. And you have DeAndre Swift having to carry the load of the backfield. So the volume might push Caleb Williams there. I don't love overall the way this is going to test their offensive tackles and the pressure up front. And they do have some guys who can make plays on the back end. So I'm not totally comfortable playing Williams. I would hope that you have a better option in a 2 QB or super flex league. I think you have to trust him. But in a 1 QB league, I would try to pivot off him, and there should be plenty of options to do that.
And if you're in a 1 quarterback league and Caleb Williams is sitting on waivers, I am picking him up. Like, I don't like holding 2 quarterbacks, but just for this week, I want to pick him up, have him on my bench, just see what he does in week 1. If he blows up, right? And then you can figure out, which quarterback you want to keep or if you want to trade one after that. But I'm holding him on my bench if you're not starting him this week. And then, like I said, Bo Nix is your quarterback 8. I'm just lower on him at quarterback 13 because in this matchup, I just don't think the Broncos are going to need much of Bo Nix at all, right? Just play good defense, run the ball, Titans were actually, I mean, I don't even know if they were a good pass defense, but no one had a pass on them last year, right? Because they were so bad. They allowed the second fewest passing yards in the NFL last year, not very many fantasy points to quarterback. So I'm just not super excited to put Bo Nix into my starting lineup this week.
Yeah, to me, he's a total floor play there. Like, I think he can get his way to 2 touchdowns, rush for enough there in that particular game. I expect the Broncos to be in control of that game against the Titans. And again, he was solid in a lot of games where you didn't expect him to put up the numbers we're looking for. We'll see what that new look Broncos running game looks like as well. Are they going to be a little bit more reliable with RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins? We're going to see that right away in week 1. So I was torn. I didn't want to put him too much lower than that. It really kind of mirrors some of the consensus rankings you saw preseason. I don't want to get too crazy in week 1 making the predictions, but I did get a little bit weirder when we got deeper on the board because and once you get past that Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, like established QB threshold, it's going to be fluctuating every single week based on these matchups because there's a lot of capable quarterbacks, but guys that are up and down based on the matchups.
Yeah, like my next 2 guys, Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, we definitely differ on this week. So we'll get to why I'm higher on them and you're lower on them right after we take a quick break.
This episode, Lockdown Fantasy Football, is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend time to crown the MVP of fantasy football preseason. The guy who delivered and will deliver for you is Jahmyr Gibbs, powered by DoorDash, just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. Jahmyr Gibbs delivered for your fantasy drafts when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to deliver in a big way this season after having a massive year, scoring all those touchdowns last season. You can expect immediate results for him against the Packers. When the pressure was on, he came through, no hesitation, no delay last season. That's going to happen again if you have him in your lineup for the Lions against the Packers. And we know his performance wasn't a fluke. Jahmyr Gibbs is on a streak that he's going to carry into 2025. Just like Jahmyr Gibbs is delivering for your fantasy team, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. This is a great time here to get in on DoorDash again. DoorDash, get on the streak this Saturday, only with DoorDash. All right, Michelle, it's time to continue the show and look at more of our quarterback rankings. We get away from the obvious closer to top 12 plays. Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert. These guys are polarizing. They were polarizing before the season. Their rankings were all over the place. Everyone didn't know where to take them. How do you feel about them in this particular week? Early, I mean, you got to make sure you're feeling good about it Thursday, Friday, because you don't want to see that struggle bus sitting in your lineup scores going into the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I think Dak Prescott's being overlooked this week. I should say, if you drafted him, I'm not worried about it with the Eagles. I know they're a good defense, but I think the Cowboys' offense is being overlooked. They're given no chance in this game. Everyone's saying the Eagles are going to beat up on them. I get it. They beat up on them both times last year, but Dak Prescott didn't play either of those games, so I don't think that's really fair. Dak Prescott's always shown up against the Eagles since 2018. He's averaged 23 fantasy points per game in his matchups against the Eagles. He's scored at least 20 points in 7 of his last 9 games against the Eagles and at least 18 points in all but one game. They have no run game whatsoever. Like, I don't expect the whatever running backs that they're going to give carries to in Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders or Jadon Blue. Like, I just don't expect them to do anything. With George Pickens there for addition, like, I think he's going to put up points, and we know the Eagles are going to put up points against the Cowboys, right? So Dak is going to have to throw a lot. And then with Herbert, yeah, it's a trickier matchup too against the Chiefs, and he struggled in both the matchups against the Chiefs last year. But one of them was in week 4 before he started getting going with his weapons and in the offense. And then the second game, he didn't have Ladd McConkey, right? So he didn't have his main guy. So I'm just really not looking into those all that much. Herbert was a top 13 fantasy quarterback in 8 of the last 11 games, top 10 in 5 of those games. So I like both Dak and Herbert this week. They're my quarterbacks 10 and 11. But yeah, you are much lower on them with Herbert at quarterback 18 and Dak at quarterback 20.
Yeah, I don't like necessarily the situation of the defense. And this is the hardest thing to figure out sometimes in fantasy football. is there going to be enough volume to make up in looking at potential blowout, or is it going to be the defense kind of putting a stamp on it and stomping out the team and making it more of a snowball effect and making a bad game worse versus being able to pass your way out of a bad game just into the enough stats that you're looking for? So that's the hard thing I'm struggling with this week with these couple of guys. I think they're pretty volatile among the fantasy quarterbacks. I think they could have a great season, both of them. They could also fall flat a little bit with the way that your teams are operating. I think Herbert, a little bit more concerning to me just because again, the running game and the volume, is he going to get the volume in some of these games where the running game and things are contained? That's a bigger question, where I think Dak Prescott is going to have built-in volume because this team's not going to run it well and their defense stinks. So that's a question, is like, are the Eagles just going to run it and play like time of possession and keep the Cowboys off the field and just pound them away? Or is it going to be so far ahead that the Dak can put up those numbers? So if it's kind of close, it's not good for Dak, I don't think. Like if it's a blowout, he has a better chance of putting up those numbers in garbage time. So again, week one is just hard to notice and hard to see how things are going to play out. So I'm leaning toward just being down on the guys I was down on before going in.
I think that's fair. Now, Kyler Murray, we both have him at quarterback 12. If he can't do it against the Saints, then I don't even know what we're doing. So this is where we had him ranked around for the season, maybe a couple spots. It's kind of right there. He's not like a super exciting guy to play, but in this matchup, you should be able to play him, and he should have a good game. It could easily be top 5 or bottom 10, right? That's him. So I think that's why he kind of falls at quarterback 12. Now, you are much, much, much higher on Michael Penix Jr. This one shocked me. You have him ranked as a quarterback 13 against the Buccaneers. And I get it, right? The Buccaneers defense was not good at all against the Falcons last year. But in Penix's 2 of 3 starts, he was a quarterback 31 on the week and quarterback 23. He did finish the year off as quarterback 6 in week 18 in that matchup against the Panthers. But yeah, I can't get up to quarterback 13. I actually have him all the way down at quarterback 25.
Yeah, here's why I'm putting him up here. I mean, we expect Baker Mayfield to have a good game. The Buccaneers defense is going to go through a transition. It's going to start to stink here. I mean, it's not a lot putting it together. Levante David is trying to hold it up as he can, as duct tape, because he's ancient at this point. He's the only thing kind of keeping it decent. So I think Penix, he's going to be comfortable. We talked about how Drake London has a potential good matchup in this game. We'll talk a little bit about how Kyle Pitts has had a good matchup in this game. And really, those are the two key guys. If they can unlock them, and if Penix gets volume, I just don't think there's anything scary about the Bucs defense, where you can see, right, the Chiefs and the Eagles defense being a little bit tougher, right, if in comeback mode than this one. But I don't think the Bucs are going to have much resistance. So that's another theory I look at too. If we like one half of it and the other guy's playing on the other half, and he's playing a bad defense, we're going to like the numbers coming the other way. So it really plays out in this game quite a bit. So I think this is going to be a sneaky high-scoring game. Of course, there's one more I like as well with the Jaguars and Panthers.
Yeah, we like both quarterbacks playing in that Jaguars-Panthers game. We like Trevor Lawrence a little bit more. I mean, I have Trevor Lawrence as my quarterback 9 this week. You have him at quarterback 11. And then Bryce Young, we both have at quarterback 14. But I do think Bryce Young's a really good sleeper this week. I mean, both of these defenses were so bad last year. They're giving up the second and third most points to quarterbacks last season. And the reason I have Trevor Lawrence a little bit higher than Bryce Young is because I just trust his weapons more, right? His weapons excite me more. Well, Bryce Young, though, I still think could have a really good game. We saw him finish off the season so strong last season, finishing as a top 7 fantasy quarterback in 3 of the last 6 games of the year, and a top 2 fantasy quarterback in 2 of the last 3 games. So I'm excited to see both of these guys, and I think it could be a pretty high scoring game if the defenses are still struggling.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because you have Baker Mayfield, who we talked about, in a system that was left behind by Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen's now with Jacksonville. And then Baker Mayfield's other offense coordinator, Dave Canales, is with Bryce Young and the Panthers. So there's a lot of that influence and imprint by these better passing game quarterback coaches, coordinators. So keep all that in mind here. And again, I think this could be a very high-scoring game between the Panthers and Jaguars. So I'm hoping for some shootouts in the South this week. And again, I want some mutually assured production in these games, and I'll be really happy about that.
And to finish up our quarterback talk here, I want to ask you really, really quickly, would you rather go with Jared Goff against the Packers at Lambeau Field or Justin Fields at home against the Steelers. Both are tougher matchups, especially for Goff, like on the road. But the Steelers have revamped their secondary. He's going to have to do so much of it with his legs. And the Steelers know Justin Fields pretty well now at this point, right? With him being on the team last year. I think it's super close, but I'm going to lean Justin Fields slightly. Like I have him ranked back to back. But Goff, I mean, even last year with Ben Johnson, he scored 9.6 points at Green Bay last year. His last 3 games playing at Green Bay, 9.5, 9.6, and 11.4 points. So we know Goff on the road outside of the dome can struggle. This is his first game without Ben Johnson. So I would lean Justin Fields over Goff if I had to choose between the two.
Yeah, and Micah Parsons on the other side, what's he going to do? He's going to, I think he'll play, like we expect him to play, suit up for the Packers for the first time. This is a very good pass rushing team now with Parsons in the mix. I know they're suspect in the secondary with Jerry Alexander moving on. I mean, he was already fading for this team, but they can pressure it up front. And this line is having a few cracks away from Penix Jr at the right tackle. So they'll come at it after him pretty well. Again, outdoors in a bad situation where the Lions running game can dominate, I think I'm going to stay away from him. And again, Justin Fields, you just hope for that rushing floor. But I think that offense, again, kind of funny, the Lions' influence is more with the Jets now than it is with the actual Lions in that offense. So again, Fields, look, he'll want to show up a little bit. I mean, they're at home against the Steelers. And it's his ex-team, too. Everyone's focused on Aaron Rodgers on the other side. So I would say, hey, Fields is going to show up, but he can also give you that running cheat code floor that Goff absolutely cannot give you.
Now, let's take a break, and then we'll transition to our tight end rankings for week 1.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is also brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more than 25 IAHS Top Safety Pick Awards, more than anyone else. That's in August 2025. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel of Mazda. Smooth handling, intuitive controls, and the standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved.
The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. You get to do player props, so you can build a same-game parlay, or even jump into live action as the game unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. One bet I really like this week is for the Steelers to cover 2.5 points against the Jets. I think they win by over a touchdown actually in this game. So I think they easily cover those 2.5 points. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, let's jump into our tight end rankings for week 1. We do have the same top 5 or same tight ends inside our top 5 with a slightly different order. So my order goes George Kittle at tight end 1, then Brock Bowers, then Trey McBride, David Njoku, and Sam Laporta to finish up the top 5. Your order is Brock Bowers at number 1, George Kittle, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, and David Njoku. So obviously Kittle, Bowers, McBride, Laporta, easy. You're plugging them in every single week until they give you a reason not to. But with David Njoku, we both expect him to have a great week this week. He gets to face the Bengals, the most favorable matchup for fantasy tight ends last season, allowed a ton of targets, a ton of points. And, you know, Njoku last year in both of his matchups against the Bengals, he had really nice games, especially in his first game with 18.6 points. But 14 targets, 10 targets in those 2 games. He's going to be needed too from Joe Flacco. So I expect him to put up a really nice performance in week 1.
Yeah, that's a pretty much tee it up and lock it in, right, type of play this week with David Njoku. I mean, he's one of the better, like, not like big, like just no-brainer plays, but he should be this week. And really, he should be just in your lineups as long as Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for the Browns, because the heater those two went on at the end of a couple seasons ago when, remember, the Browns were a playoff team? Remember that time? And not having all this quarterback mess. So when we look at that, I mean, David Njoku, Joe Flacco, they have built-in chemistry. It's like Dennis Pitta and Joe Flacco, and throw any other quarterbacks you had with the Ravens with Joe Flacco, or a tight end situation with him. So again, Njoku is locked in with Flacco. That's going to help a lot. So if you already produced without Flacco last year, you produced with Flacco, feeling it in this Bengals game.
Now, my tight ends 6 through 8 are kind of just, it's not shocking. I don't think to anyone. It goes TJ Hawkinson, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews. They should all be heavily involved in their offenses. They all have a chance to score a touchdown. I like them all this week, but I'm not willing to still put them up in that elite category at this moment. And you have TJ Hawkinson at number 7, Mark Andrews at number 8, and then Travis Kelce at number 10. Now, your tight end 6, you're going bold here. You're going with a rookie tight end and Tyler Warren against the Dolphins as your tight end 6. He's my tight end 9. Like, if you drafted him, I'm plenty fine to start him. Just a little, I couldn't put him that high. It's just very rare for a rookie tight end to have a good fantasy day in their first, NFL debut.
Yeah, they're going to need him a lot, though. I'll just say this. I mean, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta. We saw Laporta come through as a rookie. Bowers come through as a rookie. It took McBride year 2 to come through. I think Tyler Warren is that kind of a product here where they're going to have to put him all over the field, move him around. Daniel Jones is willing to check down a lot more than Anthony Richardson, especially in a game against the Dolphins, where the Dolphins are not very good. Overall, I know they got Minka Fitzpatrick, but he's more of a nickel back and things, so maybe they won't get the big plays downfield and what you're looking at. So Josh Downs is also a little bit banged up coming into this game. So you figure Tyler Warren might lead the team in targets, not just for this week, but for the entire season over all the wide receivers. So I think it starts this week. The talent is there. The matchup is there. They're at home. Jones is going to throw to him. So, again, I think that's going to be a lot of fluctuation after you get past the big 4 of Bowers, Kittle, McBride, Laporta. Njoku is probably going to establish himself in the top 6 for a while with these matchups as we figure out what's going to happen with Hawkinson, Andrews, and Kelce in particular. So Tyler Warren, again, in this matchup, I can go that far where there's some concerns about the other matchups, right? When you look at the Bills versus Andrews, Kelce versus the Chargers, and sometimes seeing Derwin James. And the Vikings, they face the Bears defense can be a little bit tricky. So, again, in terms of the matchups, Warren and the situation, I think he's in a better spot.
We're pretty similar on Evan Ingram this week. You have him at tight end 9. I have him at tight end 11. Nobody we're super excited to play, but he should get some targets. One guy I do have over him, though, right ahead of him at tight end 10 is Brenton Strange. He's been a player that I've been, having as a good sleeper guy to draft late in drafts all offseason long. I think he's going to be involved in this Jaguars offense. He gets a very nice matchup against the Panthers, who allowed the 4th most fantasy points and the most receiving touchdowns to tight ends last year. So again, if I think he's going to be involved, I think he's going to break out. I have to like him in this amazing matchup. So, and you're not far behind me. You have him at tight end 14.
Yeah, I'm going to be aggressive at tight end this year, Michelle. I think everyone has a little bit off. I mean, they're just getting boring with the tight end rankings. It's been pretty much down the line, but there's going to be some guys that break out. And as you mentioned, the matchup is fantastic. The other thing that is sneaky in this game is Travis Hunter might be eased in with a snap count on both sides. You may not dominate snaps offensively or defensively. They'll probably manage it just a little bit. Are they going to go to Diami Brown after Brian Thomas Jr.? Probably not as much. So they're going to have to use Brenton Strange there. And again, all those vacant targets tied to Evan Ingram, right? Evan Ingram's out the door, 82 targets that are extra. Strange already at 50. That's why we liked him a lot. And again, Liam Cohen, again, he got a tight end 14, by the way, finished by Kate Otten last year. It wasn't all that juicy or special, but Brenton Strange finished at tight end 14. He's an absolute value.
Now, to finish up our top 12 tight ends, we both have the same tight end there. It's Mr. Kyle Pitts, and I was not planning on ranking him in our top 12, but against this Buccaneers defense, I mean, it was his 2 good games last year in terms of receiving yards, of both his highest by far, 91 yards and 88 yards. He had 2 touchdowns in the one matchup against the Buccaneers, but 23.1 points and 12.3 and half PPR. He was a tight end 2 in one of the weeks he played the Buccaneers, and tight end 6 any other week. So we still have him far below that at tight end 12, but Darnell Mooney's banged up. He's questionable to play. He should be involved in this. And I mean, I think it's a good matchup.
Yeah, and Michelle makes a good point. I was talking about it earlier with the injury issues or snap counts and things they're going to watch out for. Watch that injury report, because if a wide receiver is a little bit banged up or something's going on, the tight end is going to benefit. And that's a good point by you, Michelle. Darnell Mooney, again, they need to find targets. And I think Penix, if you look back at last year, and this is why I have Penix high, because of this matchup, Kyle Pitts and Drake London ate against the Buccaneers. So if those two guys eat, you're in a good position for Michael Penix to produce. So I do like Pitts to take a shot. If not for the week of heart, Michelle, you got to roll with it. You got to feel good about it. If he gets 1 for 10, just live with it. He should have done a lot more. That's on the Falcons, but the process says the results should be rather good, at least at number 12 for Kyle Pitts this week.
Now, one guy I just wanted to bring up to close out the show here, because he was drafted as a starting tight end in many fantasy leagues. It's Colston Loveland, the rookie for the Bears. We both have him pretty much buried in our week 1 rankings. He's your tight end 19. He's my tight end 20. I mean, if you drafted him and there's really no other guys that are available on the waivers, put him in, but it's a big risk, right? I'm not saying he can't be good this week, but I need to see the workload, right? His snaps, his targets, how he's involved in this offense before trusting putting him into my lineup. And I was talking about with Tyler Warren, rookie tight ends just really don't get it done in week 1 historically for fantasy whatsoever. I'm willing to take that chance with Tyler Warren because he could be the focal point of his offense. I'm not willing to do that with Loveland until I see his actual usage.
Yeah, my head is trying to figure all this out with the Bears. And Ben Johnson, it's a credit to you. You've been hiding a lot of things, exactly what we're going to see between the 2 tight end sets and the 3 receivers. How much does Luther Burden play with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze? How much does Colston Loveland play with Cole Kmet? I cannot tell you. There's so many things going on here. DJ Moore, is he the go-to guy? Is Rome Odunze the go-to guy? So I just want to – with the Bears, I just want a little bit of evidence, right? DeAndre Swift, you might have to play by default because of – heck, there's nothing else going on in the running game that could be healthy. But everything else is like, I want to wait and see how this pecking order plays out. But that's a testament to their offense coordinator. And maybe that's why Caleb Williams will have a good game, as you think. But, again, it's a little bit volatile. I'd rather take a wait-and-see approach with the passing game of the Bears, and I'll feel much more confident about what to do with them in week 2.
That is it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL season previews on Locked On NFL. Every division winner, breakout stars, and Super Bowl contender. An 8-episode series with everything you need to know about the NFL season. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow to discuss our favorite sleepers and DFS plays of the week. Enjoy your first NFL game of the season tonight, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.